I always figured if life was going to try and run me over, at least let it be something with a little dignity. A bull, maybe. Or a tornado. But a woman in designer heels, waving legal papers in my face at sunrise? I didn't see that one coming. Funny how the universe likes its little jokes sometimes at your expense, sometimes on someone else's dime. Picture this with me. 6 in the morning, sky still that faded, sleepy blue. There I am, standing in my boots, mug of coffee cooling in my hand, staring down the barrel of a bulldozer parade headed for my pasture. Right where my wife, Emily, and I built everything we ever had. Or almost everything. Cancer took her from me 2 years ago, left the ranch as the last thing I had to hold on to. If you've ever lost somebody, you know the kind of emptiness I'm talking about. The kind that echoes. Anyway, there's Linda Carver stepping out of her spotless Audi. Not a speck of mud on her, which out here is basically a miracle or a warning. She's holding those court papers high, smiling like she's just won the lottery, and says, "This little hobby farm ends today, Mr. Hart." As if the smell of hay and diesel behind me could be wiped out with a few signatures. Honestly, if she'd been packing a gun, I might have respected her more. Instead, she came armed with a suburban grin and a film crew, ready to immortalize my defeat on some Facebook page. I guess nothing makes a better breakfast for the HOA crowd than the taste of fresh rancher blood. Now, here's what she and most folks with a monthly manicure and get. I wasn't just fighting for grass and cattle. This was legacy. 23 head of Angus, for generations of Hart family sweat. And this woman thought a lawsuit could flatten it all because her HOA brunch club didn't like the smell of real life. What Linda didn't understand, and you might not either if you've never fought off bulldozers at sunrise, was that every single thing she saw was a stage. I'll get to that, but ask yourself if your HOA tried to erase everything you'd ever built. What's the wildest way you'd fight back? Because let me tell you, sometimes you need a little wild just to survive. Name's Mason Hart. My family's been tending this same slice of Colorado dirt since 1952. 47 acres of pasture enough to ride out a few blizzards, enough to remember why you bother staying alive when life gets ugly. You ever walk through an old barn and catch a whiff of sun-warmed leather? Hey, a hint of diesel? That smell? That's home. Or at least it was, right up until Emily got sick. We had 43 years together. 43 years, 18 months of hope, and then it was gone. After her funeral, the ranch was the only thing that got me out of bed. Every morning, same ritual: feed the cattle, check the fences, listen to echoes of her laughter drifting across the grass. That's the soundtrack no one else hears. We weren't running some high-flying operation, either. Grass-fed beef, straight to local restaurants. Enough to keep the name alive, enough to keep the lights on. Then the world changed. Maybe you've seen it. Henderson's old wheat farm turned into Willowbrook Estates. Perfect lawns, rows of matching mailboxes, and rules thick enough to choke a horse. I swear, some of those newcomers judged each blade of grass like they'd never seen a weed before. Most of them were good people, just trying to build something for their kids. But every new pack has a queen. Linda Carver walked in like she owned the ground, her nails shining brighter than any branding iron. Former lawyer out of Denver. She liked the idea of country living, as long as it was pre-packaged and came with a warranty. Linda's place? Maybe 800 yards from my fence, but apparently that was still too close. 3 weeks after she moved in, I got my first certified letter. Odors, property values, legal threats. She hit all the HOA favorites. I didn't panic. I did my homework. Pulled out property records, zoning laws, the whole works. My land was protected, grandfathered in since before her subdivision was even a sketch on a blueprint. Didn't matter. Linda wasn't fighting for rules, she was fighting for control. Next came a lawsuit. Health hazards, noise complaints. Meanwhile, her yappy little dog could drown out a barn full of calves. She packed the town council meeting with Willowbrook folks who'd never set foot in a barn. She made speeches: groundwater contamination, danger to children at her heels, clicking a war drum on the courthouse steps. The local paper ate it up, called me stubborn, stuck in the past. The day the restraining order landed, it felt like a punch to the gut. 500 feet suddenly. A third of my pasture was off limits. I had to sell off 8 head of cattle, fast at a loss. 12 grand gone in a heartbeat. Linda, meanwhile, watched from her kitchen window, sipping coffee, smiling like she'd just cured cancer. Town split in half. Hardware store started losing Willowbrook business. Diner got quiet old-timers on one side, newcomers on the other. Tom at the hardware store slipped me fence wire under the counter and told me to hang in there. Some of us remember what this valley used to stand for, he said. Bless him for that. Linda ramped things up online protecting children, posting pictures of my cattle like they were wild beasts. That's when I saw it. This wasn't about safety. It was about power. Linda wanted the country sanitized, scrubbed clean, no grit allowed. She figured I'd break if she pushed hard enough. Problem is, you push a rancher, he learns how to push back. She hit me again where it hurt. While I was tangled up with restraining orders, she found out my septic permit had lapsed during Emily's illness. I missed the renewal. Plain and simple happens when you're living in hospital waiting rooms, not at your desk. Kind of gave me 30 days to upgrade or shut down. 18 grand I didn't have, not after the auction, not after months of legal fees. It felt like the world was closing in. That morning, kitchen filled with the smell of burnt coffee and old toast, I realized she wasn't just using lawsuits to turn the whole system against me. Here's something my old man taught me, back when he still wore a suit to court. When someone plays the paperwork game, don't fight their rules, find their violations. So while Linda was probably at a brunch, I was elbow deep in county records, flickering lights humming overhead, maps older than her subdivision spread across the table. Miss Alvarez, the records clerk, brought me coffee and steered me toward the cabinets no one else remembered. Sometimes the old stories are buried deep, she'd say, winking. Sure enough, Linda's file was a gold mine. That fancy stone fence, built 6 feet over the setback. Landscaping lights, illegal under rural dark sky rules. Even her ornamental pond, no permits. Next morning, I filed my own stack of complaints, tidy and precise. The game was on. The twist? Mark Carver, Linda's husband, showed up on my porch at sunset. Looked like he hadn't slept in weeks. We're leveraged to the hilt, he whispered. She needs property values high. We can't afford to lose. And just like that, Linda's crusade made sense. This was desperation dressed up as public service. Desperate people do desperate things, and they make predictable mistakes. Case in point, I got hit with an IRS audit. I wonder who claimed I was hiding business income. Cost me $4,200 just to hire an attorney, prove I was clean. Linda rallied the neighborhood. More noise complaints, petitions to rezone. The anti-farm movement had glossy pamphlets, catered snacks. I had Tom, a pile of paperwork, and the sneaking suspicion I was missing something important. Turns out I was, but not for long. Late one night, Miss Alvarez dug up a detail, even she had missed at first. My family's land included subsurface mineral rights that stretched under the entire Willowbrook development, dating back to the 1890s. I checked, double-checked. It was real. And if you know anything about land law, you know mineral rights can trump just about anything, especially when the claim is older than your neighbor's great-grandfather. Funny thing, the rumors about nighttime activity near the fence? Not sabotage, just my old college roommate, a mining engineer running core samples for limestone. We found deposits worth millions. I didn't want to dig, but suddenly I didn't have to fight with shovels or lawyers. I could fight with leverage. Linda found out soon enough. County clerk called me, half laughing, half apologizing. You might want to know, Mrs. Carver is upset. By noon, my phone was blowing up calls, voicemails, rage pouring through the line. I ignored everyone. I learned by then, sometimes silence is your sharpest weapon. The county froze every future development plan, road expansion, new homes, all of it pending resolution of the mineral rights. Willowbrook's Facebook group lost its mind. Accusations, blame, panic. Suddenly, people stopped caring about cattle smells and started worrying about retirement plans evaporating. I stayed out of it. Just kept working, fixing fences, feeding cows, meeting quietly with a new attorney, Ruth Calder. She was old school, looked at my file, and just nodded. You've been sitting on a powder keg, Mason. And Linda lit the fuse herself. She explained, I didn't even need to mine the land. The threat alone was enough. Uncertainty ruins a developer's appetite faster than any lawsuit. Linda wasn't done, though. Desperation sharpens the claws. 2 nights later, headlights swept across my bedroom. County trucks at my gate. Another anonymous complaint, another inspection. This time, everything passed. Even the deputy looked embarrassed. The message was clear. She'd try to wear me out. Next morning, a flyer was nailed to my fence, "Protect our community." Dramatic photo of my barn, shadowed to look like Dracula's castle. There was a meeting scheduled at the clubhouse, and I figured, why not? So I went to see Tom at the store, picked up nails, a thermos of coffee. "Town's buzzing," he said, eyes glinting. "People are starting to ask the right questions." Friday night, clubhouse packed. SUVs lined up out front, conversations dying when I walked in. Linda launched into her speech, talking about safety, about one man holding the community hostage. Never mentioned the lawsuits, the midnight complaints, the mineral rights until someone finally called her out. That's when I stood up. Didn't raise my voice. Didn't accuse. Just told the truth about my wife, about the forced auction, about every sneaky trick. Told them what the ranch was, what it meant. Explained the mineral rights, plain and clear. I don't want to quarry this land. I just want to ranch it. But I won't be bullied off my own ground. You could hear a pin drop. Then Janice Neighbor, 3 houses from Linda, stood up. "Is it true HOA funds went to your lawsuits?" she asked. Linda opened her mouth, then shut it. Mark just stared at his shoes. Meeting ended fast after that. By Monday, Linda resigned. Mark put their house up for sale, but the cloud lingered, had no buyers, not at the price they wanted. The county dropped every action against me. IRS audit closed with a written apology. Even a local paper wrote a news story, one that didn't fit the usual script. Things didn't magically get easier. Bills still stung. Grief still followed me like a shadow. But people started waving again. Kids from Willowbrook showed up to learn about cattle, get their hands dirty. I started selling beef to families, not just restaurants. Emily would have loved that. Some evenings, I'd stand at the fence, feeling the quiet settle over the pasture, and realize for the first time in a long while I wasn't lonely. It was earned. Linda thought she was fighting a stubborn rancher. What she didn't get was she was fighting a whole history, written in sweat and calluses. And history outlasts folks who mistake power for permanence. But, and there's always a but, with people like Linda, she wasn't done. Not even close. First time I saw the drone, it was foggy, cattle barely moving. It buzzed, hovered, dipped over my barn, then zipped back to Willowbrook. 2 days later, I got a letter from some slick Denver law firm alleging my livestock posed a threat to subsurface mineral resources. Legal acrobatics at its finest. Ruth just laughed. They're fishing in badly. Mineral rights don't trump AGUs if you own both. We documented every drone visit, filed complaints. County took notice. FAA did too. Drone never came back. The rumors started, though. People saying I was going to sell to a mining company or poison wells to scare folks off. The ugliest rumor said I'd made up Emily's illness for sympathy. That one just about broke me. I spent a night in the barn, clutching an old photo of her, boots muddy, hair tied back, smiling like only she could. I promised her, right then, I'd anchor this place so deep, no one like Linda could ever uproot it. Funny where answers come from. Middle school teacher named Ben brought his class for a tour. One kid asked, "Why do ranches disappear when new houses move in?" That question stuck with me. With Ruth's help, I set up a conservation easement, locked the ranch against development, protected it for future generations. Suddenly, I wasn't just fighting for myself, I was protecting something bigger. Legal pressure collapsed almost overnight. But Linda's desperation didn't. Mark warned me she'd hired a private investigator, digging for dirt. Small towns are good at spotting strangers. Tom shut that down quick. Ruth filed another motion, this time for harassment. Judge issued an injunctiono, more legal action, without court approval. Finally, I slept through the night. Seasons rolled on. Linda's house finally sold at a loss. They left without fanfare. County recognized the ranch as a historic site. Bronze plaque by the gate, quiet, dignified. Willowbrook changed. Fewer rules, more neighborly. Families started coming out to help with branding, asked about apprenticeship. Teachers brought classes. The place filled up, not just with cattle, but with people and laughter. The wounds began to heal, and for the first time, it felt like Emily was smiling somewhere. Linda had tried to erase the ranch because it didn't fit her vision of progress. What she never understood, what a lot of folks don't, is that progress isn't about conquering the past. It's about learning from it. I nearly missed that lesson myself. You want to know the moral? Here it is. When someone tries to erase you, don't get louder. Get deeper. Know your ground, your story, your roots. Invite others in quietly. Time takes care of the rest. Land remembers who stayed. So, let me ask you this: where do you draw the line? When does fighting for what's yours cross over into something else? And have you ever stood your ground when everyone told you to move? I'd love to hear your story, or where you think right and wrong begin and end in a fight like this. Drop your thoughts below, because, trust me, sometimes the quietest victories echo the longest.
Cảm ơn tất cả các bạn đã xem video.